myself.
Sorry.
That's okay. I grew up in the Detroit area, and a really important aspect to me of that was the Detroit Institute of Art Museum, which I visited very often. My parents were very good about taking us to exhibits. We saw a great Rembrandt exhibit years and years ago. Left quite the impression. I always was drawing as a child. In the 70s, I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico. It was a little bit more of an art scene than Detroit, but there I worked in a couple of art galleries, and I was able to take some workshops with local artists there. Ray Vanilla, who painted in Taos, Lee Rommel was very local. Ted Gershner, who's actually a California artist, conducted several workshops there, and he was extremely informative. And I still use a lot of what he taught us there. I stayed in Santa Fe for about 22 years. As I say, I worked in galleries there, and what also helped me very much to, I think, tune my observational skills was looking at some of these great paintings, both historical and contemporary. As you know, there was a plethora of early Santa Fe artists, as well as a fabulous group of younger American Indian artists who were very cutting edge at the time, and just great artists. So it was wonderful to look at those things on a daily basis, learn by looking at what they were doing. I moved to the Monterey Peninsula in, I think, 97, and was working full-time, painting very little. Started painting more, and then went back to it full-time, of course, when I was able to retire. Yippee. So organizations that I belong to, of course, are CCAA. I am a member of California Art Club. I am actually the president of Monterey Bay Plein Air Painters Association, and I'm on the advisory board of Carmel Valley Art Association. So plein air to me is like the lifeblood of your painting. It infuses you, I think, with energy. It's daunting. It makes you learn and grow quickly. And it's, of course, now the word's escaping me, but it's very exhilarating. So what I thought I would do today is we, as a MB Papa group, went to Rocky Point not long ago. And I had twofold reasons to really want to do this area. One, because it's just an incredible scene with the ocean cliffs and the ocean, of course, and the atmosphere. Can be foggy, can be sunny, can be some of both. Also, I had a friend who used to live here, now lives in the East, and his wife's favorite spot was the view south from Rocky Point. So fortunately, he commissioned me to do a larger painting, larger for me, 18 by 24, of the scene the south view from Rocky Point. So I'd been waiting pretty much all summer for decent weather. Was, you know, we had a lot of clouds. So anyway, this particular day, and I believe was only maybe maybe 3 weeks ago, but at any rate, it was sunny. It started off foggy. So this is, and I apologize, normally I try to take photos of my paintings in progress. This time I have a photo of the scene, as you see. I'm looking more this would say which way? From here down, not doing this.
You zoomed in.
Oh, did I?
No.
Oh,
For-
yes,
painting.
yes, I'm sorry. Yes, my focus is zoomed in.
Yeah.
Yes. So because the fog was shifting, it got lighter as we went on. So I just tried to capture a midpoint of the fog and do as much sunshine as possible. And it was a really nice day to do this. So this was the on-site photo. The next photo I have is, it's the finished, but it's not a very good photo. You can see the lines of the linen and there's some glare on it. This is the end result. I will also show you the actual painting a little bit later, which looks better than this. But anyway, this is the end result of the small plein air. And this is 11 by 14. So
That
in order,
you usually work the smaller paintings.
yes, plein air usually, often it's 11 by 14. I also do 9 by 12.
Is this so you
So-
can do it in a shorter time in the
Exactly, I
night?
can capture more. I would have to go back several times to do a larger study, a larger painting. And then you're always hoping for same weather and light conditions. So I find it easier, and I also like the energy of the smaller plein air paintings, because when I'm going to translate it, I try, and that's my big effort, has been for several years, to get the same kind of energy going on with the larger painting. So it doesn't look like an overworked studio piece.
Right.
So the first thing I do is, this is an 18 by 24 linen, stretched linen. I prime it and I tone it. So I always use this kind of mid values, pretty warm, almost terracotta underpainting. Tone, I should say, it's not an underpainting. And it consists of cad yellow, manganese violet, and white. I put it on with a knife and then I take it off with like a Gamsol soaked paper towel to get it even and lighten it up, and also it would dry quicker. So this first is a sketch. You can see my grid light lines, which I kind of erased with turpentine or the thinner. And then the sketch is done just with the fairly dry brush with burnt sienna. So I just basically want to get the basic shapes. The next thing I do, and I apologize, I had lightened this photo up substantially on my computer, but not on this print. I block in the darkest dark. So there's two different sets of darks here. One is the dark green, and that is, let's see. Oh, I know what I don't have here, and I apologize, is a picture of my palette. So let me just tell you really quickly what that is. It's titanium white. Is not much different than I'm sure most people use. Cad yellow, medium, cad orange, medium, cad red, medium, alizarin crimson, manganese violet, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and burnt umber. Optional colors, which I did use in this painting because of the background and the ocean, were viridian green and cerulean blue. So then I mix two neutral colors. One mixture is a warm neutral, and that's cad orange, manganese violet and white. And then the cool neutral is, excuse me, manganese violet, ultramarine blue, and white. These I use to neutralize complementary colors, to tone some things down if they're too bright, and in shadows if that's applicable.
So are
So
these grays? Do these turn out to be a gray neutral?
They're a little bit more intense than gray.
Uh-huh.
1 second, I'm going to take you over to my palette, which I've pre-mixed so I can do the finishing of that. There, I think you can see
Yeah.
the warm neutral and the cool neutral. Now that warm neutral is a little darker than I often have it. But
So
that's,
do you find that unifies your painting? By having
I-
those two?
yes. Whoops, absolutely. Because you're using the same kind of mixture of complements in with your other color mixtures, and I think it does unify it. So in the next photo, the darkest darks. So this goes back to, this is the darkest dark here is, it's a green. It's kind of a cool dark green. It's ultramarine blue, cad yellow, a little bit of Viridian, and a small amount of alizarin crimson. And as you can tell, it's blocked in loosely. I actually use, it's a number 10 flat brush for almost the majority of the painting, actually. But I try to simplify shapes at this point. Also, then the rock masses are dark, and those are ultramarine blue and burnt umber with maybe a little tiny bit of white, just so I can tell what color it is, if it's more gray, if it's more brown. And I do those underneath because then as I build the mid and higher tones, there's, you know, that contrast of, for rocks, crevices, and shadows for the hills. So then I start to try to block, and well, I don't start to try, I block in the mid values. So here I have several shades of green going from warmer and then cooler as we go back. In the background, this is, and I change it a little bit later, this is a little bit more of a red violet than I would like, but it's basically a manganese violet white to push back those furthest mountains. I did here also start to do a little bit of the fog coming through, and that was almost a dry brush of white over wet paint so that it didn't get very opaque. And then I blocked in just a basic kind of ultramarine with some cerulean, a little bit of the warm neutral to tone it down. Color isn't very good on that.
In the fog?
I'm sorry, in the water.
In the water.
Sorry, we're down here.
Gotcha.
The fog I just did, it was a little bit of the cool neutral with a lot of white.
Uh-huh. Is that how, I mean, fog is a mystery. So when you put this in, your paints are still pretty wet.
They're wet.
Oil, right? So you move it
Yes.
around.
Yeah.
Just a touch.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of surprised me as maneuverable as it was, because I did want these, you know, under shapes
Uh-huh.
to show through like they do in fog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I'm hoping that these pictures are in order of some sort. They should be. Okay, so the next one, I would develop more things. I've warmed up this closest. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, it was
Sorry.
a little more yellow green.
Yes. to bring it closer and warm it up. As you notice, I've developed a lot more of the rock shapes here. They're still almost all the same value. So I changed that, but coming up, I do add some of the highlights on the rocks. I've put an underlayer of a darker ultramarine blue cerulean paint in the water. And it does have a hair of the warm neutral
Yeah.
to calm it down, so it's not quite so bright. I've lightened up this back hillside because it is more in sunlight and it needs to be pushed back a little bit of highlight on these closer hills. And this has been developed a little more shadow, more of the fog, a lot more of the white. And actually it's, when you looked at it at this point, there was a lot more of the cool kind of,
Neutral.
yeah, the cool neutral. Thank you.
I can see it.
Very good. Thank you. So moving on. And this one, I have changed some of the values of the rocks so that they recede a bit more.
Is
Developed
this
it.
what you're actually seeing, or are you intuitively doing this as from your knowledge of?
Well, there's two things, because I was working from my study, 11 by 14.
Right.
And we intellectually know that colors and intensity fade as we go back. And if we don't honor that when we're painting it, then it doesn't look right. Or if it looks like you're trying to maybe flatten the picture screen rather than show distance. So I did intentionally do that. And I'm hoping that I also saw that as well, but I did it in my study. So I went a lot from that. So in this painting, I developed the rocks a lot more. I added some highlights along just the edges that would have been hit by the sun that's coming that way. And I used a little bit of yellow ochre, a hair of cad yellow, and white. And then if it needed to be calmed down, I put in a little of the cool neutral. Also in the background, I added a little bit more of the ultramarine blue to my cool mixture to make it cooler rather than not quite as red violet. This is, and I'll show you the painting itself in just a couple of minutes. This is pretty much the end result of the painting. I've put in the surf, in which you can't really tell here so much. Well, you can see a little bit of the shadows in the surf.
Mm-hmm.
The white is white with a little bit of cad yellow. I think in the study, cad yellow shows a little bit more. And at the end here, I plan on kind of adjusting my water so that it has more of a sparkle and that it pops a little bit more. I did lighten up the fog a little bit. As you look at the fog, parts of it are really quite white and almost dense. Well, I didn't want dense, but I did use more of the ultramarine with white. Let's see, I don't think I did anything more in the water per se. I did add a few highlights in the hills here as the sun would hit them. And I think that is pretty much it for this. This is a side by side. You can see that very well. of the 18 by 24 and the 11 by 14, which again, I'm going to show you up close and personal in a second. This is faded out, so sadly that's not too great. That actually is a little bit more realistic as to what the painting looks like. And this one, of course, looks quite dark. So anyway, we're going to go on to the paintings as they actually are. Excuse me while I move.
We have a group that of our watercolorists that do some plein air, and I know that a lot of our other artists also are belong to your Impapa group and do plein air painting.
Yes.
It's so one of my questions, I'm newish at plein air painting. You work so that you can do it in a sunshine light time frame for the most.
Well, whether it's light or fog, whatever the light aspect that attracts you, you want to be able to convey. So you have to be very quick. Yeah. Often what plein air artists will do will be to paint the basic landscape.
Yeah.
And then put in the light, whether it's fog, or if it's fog, it's going to change how you paint these, of course. But in this case, fog was lifting. So I didn't want it to go away completely. So you try to capture a moment. So you put in the suggestion of where it is at a particular time and try to leave it there.
Do you make notes, or is it just you're painting fast enough that you can do that?
I take pictures along the way
of the scene.
Of the scene, yes. Let's see. Okay, so
how long did that initial reddish painting take you to do?
The initial sketch.
Yeah, you're priming. Yeah.
Oh, that takes, I don't know, 10 minutes.
So you're still in your time frame of the lighting. That's my.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, ideally it's less than that. It was about 10 minutes on the larger one. Gotcha. Let's see.
And did you do the larger one? Did you say you did that in the studio or in plein air?
The larger one was done in the studio. What I was trying to do is capture the immediacy, and the light of the smaller study. Here is, can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's one of the photographs I took for reference. Whoops, sorry, I just kicked my stand, sorry. This is another one. So this is the plein air. And to me, this one, the water sparkles a little bit more. I like the simplicity of the rocks and the larger painting, but I liked the water here. And what I'm looking at now is that I have more of a contrast in this smaller painting of water and then the surf. And then within the surf, it's very evident my cad yellow and white mixture, and then some white mixture. But the cad yellow is really more evident in the smaller painting. And I really think that in some respects helps it pop. This is, let's see. This is the larger. Oh, okay, you need to be back a little bit.
Just a touch, yeah. That's pretty good.
Okay. So in the larger painting, there is some warmer yellow, but I'm thinking it could be a little bit more warm. In this, sadly, it just shows like that just looks all white, what you're seeing. And basically it's not. When you get closer, you can see some of the shadows, but I'm thinking that those could be emphasized, and some of the white surf can be emphasized as well.
And it seems that this one has a little bit more of the misty, wavy thing going on.
It does. It's a little bit thicker through there, but these two layers are not all that different.
No, I meant in your waves, on the.
Oh, I'm sorry, in the waves seemed more, I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
There's sort of that, you see the after spray, the mist. I'm just,
Oh, in
trying
here?
to, when you're doing the difference that you do between the plein air and your studio painting,
Mhm.
in your mindset, how are you, do you get a little more detail oriented, or is it, how is your
I do to some extent, but I try not to, because I think that is, it's easy to get kind of stuck in the weeds and get detail oriented because you're seeing, oh, it's bigger, so I can show more.
right.
But really, you don't want to do that. You want, yeah, you want to keep that freshness, the simplicity. You don't need to see every little crevice thing. So throughout, I continue to use these brushes. And,
Oh,
and these
okay.
are both number 10. The only time I use anything smaller is the highlights on the rocks, on the green a little bit. And maybe, well, now in the plein air, the little dots, hopefully of sparkle,
Yeah,
was done by a different brush. But otherwise, it's all these. And this really prevents me, I should say, from getting too detail oriented.
my teacher
Because
used to call it Nicky.
yes. Yeah, I mean,
Marcy.
What?
It's
I
time
did,
for some homework.
pen and ink drawings for years. And then I went to acrylic painting. And even with acrylics, I still was doing a lot more of a detailed kind of painting. So I really wanted to break out of that. So it's been a process for me.
And you
Of,
think the oil helps you be looser?
to an extent, in that oil is very forgiving. So you have a opportunity to do do-overs. You can pick it up and pretend it never happened. You can paint over it. Acrylics dry pretty quickly, so you have to, and they work. I found the most effective ways almost more like a watercolor, in that you worked from light to dark rather than in oil from dark to light. So I like the viscosity and the richness of the oil. And I like the fact that I can layer, I can, excuse me, add incredible bright highlights to something to make it alive.
Right.
I mean, watercolor to me is the most difficult medium, and I'm just in awe of people that do fantastic watercolors. I think they're just amazing. So, I guess without further ado, I will try to change my water so that it's a little bit more sparkly, not quite so dense.
Nope.
So I'm going to simplify some of this surf. And then also along in here. So I'm going to put more of a blue color in here. And then I'm going to try to define with a little bit more of the cad yellow and white, some of the foamy things. And one of the things with this scene that just caught me too was just the water was just like diamonds. And these photographs, this one shows it a
Little
bit
bit.
clear. A little bit.
I never
but
saw it all.
yeah, it was like diamonds on the water. It was just amazing. And I don't know if I could ever capture that. This one shows it maybe a little bit more.
Oh, I see. Yeah, a little, definitely.
Yeah. This is the one, actually. I printed it on this paper by mistake, but I was glad I did because it was bigger and it came out the best. So I used this in my painting as my basic references for this guy. Okay, so
How often do you do the larger ones? Or I
it
should
kind
say
of goes
in
in,
studio, I guess. How
yeah.
often do you do studio paintings?
It kind of goes in spurts. I hadn't done studio paintings in quite a while. And then recently I've had a couple commissions for 18 by 24. So the last month I've done more. And then, excuse me, I have a commission of a couple paintings coming up that are 24 by 36.
Oh,
Those I will not be doing plein air, but
come on.
I know. So during COVID, I had done some big pieces like 30 by 40. I mean, that's really big for me. Because of course I had the time and I couldn't really go too many places. So those were primarily close-up paintings of flowers like calla lilies or roses.
More flower portraits.
Yes, thank you. Good description.
One of our viewers would like to know what color you used on the rocks, and I'm not sure if she means your layers or initially. I know initially you said it was a cool dark.
Yes, I use a combination of ultramarine blue and burnt umber mixed with a little white. And then as I develop them, I may add a little bit of yellow ochre, just a hair, or I may add a little more of my warm neutral or cool neutral, depending on the push and pull of what's going
You
on
kind
here.
of stay with the same mixture, that ultramarine
Yes,
and the burnt umber.
yes, absolutely. It makes a really nice kind of a cool gray brown.
Nice.
Yeah. I actually learned that because I was able to take a workshop with Brian Blood.
Ooh.
And yeah, when we did that, it was, okay, it was about a year ago because it was October last year, but the weather was polar opposite. It was cold, it was foggy, it was windy. So, you know, what I love about Brian's work, of course, is how he captures light and atmosphere. So it was great for fog, but it didn't, you know, we didn't have the opportunity to watch him do something with, you know, the bright sparkling water and light on the rocks. But
right. His expertise. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
But the ultramarine and burnt umber are his mixtures for grays. And so you can make it warmer or cooler. And it's just a really simple, easy formula when you're trying to do rocks.
Well, I noticed in your initial paintings and also in this studio painting how cohesive your painting is because of the your sort of formula of the neutral thing that you add and sticking with like your rock colors. And it's, I have to say, it's very nice.
Thank you.
I work in color. I don't know how I can accomplish that, but you know, I'll try.
Yeah, I think it is a fairly limited palette. And now these mixtures, this warm neutral and the cool neutral, I learned from Ted Gershner. And it helps unify things. And of course, it helps mute something if you need it muted. And I think it really does help the unification of your whole painting. Also, that initial under the tone of the canvas, excuse me, this guy, although that looks pretty pink, it is reality. It's a mixture of the cool and the warm neutrals, obviously more on the side of the warm, but it comes up with a very nice mid-value that I think also, sometimes you see it come through, sometimes you don't. But for somehow, I mean, even like if you looked closely at the water, you could see a little bit of warmth. Certainly you can see some warmth here in the hills. I think that helps unification as well. Okay, sorry, looking for my glasses. I don't use my glasses in plein air, but I do always in the studio. So go figure. Must be the mid to close range thing.
It's good
I
to see
know.
things blurry sometimes.
Well, yeah, you know, and sometimes that's not a bad thing. Okay, so I'm going to try to simplify some of our water. I'm assigning the water to everybody here so that they all have ownership in what I'm doing. So if I mess it up, and I have to tell you, the client's
It's our
already
fault.
approved it. Exactly. You know, there's that
Go ahead,
old,
blame us.
right, there's that old saying, find someone to blame, right?
The
So,
American way.
yeah, exactly. So share and share alike. Share the love, share the pain. Okay, this guy is darker, but I wanted to get some more depth in some of these areas, and that might be a bit much, but we will find out shortly.
That's your ultramarine mix of with your neutral.
Now, this is, yes, it's ultramarine. It has some cerulean blue in it because the water had a little bit more of a turquoise cast than in this real cool blue. And then, yes, I have some of my warm neutral in it, so it's not quite so bright. What I had noticed, there was a little darker ripple under some of the very lightest areas. So we just want to get, I mean, there's movement in the water somewhat out here. Way more, of course, as it smashes up against the rocks.
Now, does oil dry lighter or darker than when it's wet?
Good question. Unlike acrylic, oil dries pretty much as you see it.
Okay.
So,
So if you put it down on something that you've done before like this, you don't have to guess.
no, you don't have to guess. So unless I do something with it, it's gonna stay like that. Ooh, that's bright. Don't want that. Okay, this is a little, well, it's a little bit lighter. I don't like that. That needs some more of my warm neutral. That might be a little bit much.
Always hard to find that color that you had before.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. So I think I'm close now.
It looks closer here from this view.
Okay, good. Don't want to lose those completely, but they're a little jarring. Let's see. I'm using just a little bit lighter now to go in here because maybe I need to go a little bit lighter. for expediency's sake, I did pre-mix some of these blues. So basically they are, though, all different strengths of, excuse me, ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, my magic warm neutral, whoa, and white.
That just stepped that back. Nice.
Good. Yeah, when I always find that I need to live with the painting when I think it's done, but I need to live with it a few days because
Yeah,
then I'll find things.
You walk in and like sneak a peek real quick.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, what was I thinking? Why did I do
Turn
that?
around fast. Try to catch
Yeah.
something.
I know, right? Oh, it's
I
gonna be
always
better.
think that if anybody saw me doing that kind of stuff, they'd go, "What in the world is she doing?"
I know this woman is not right. Oh, I know.
What in the world is wrong with her?
The life of an artist trying to do a painting.
Yeah, don't explain it to the layman.
No, no, no. Yeah, for me, it's better if I try not to look at it, period, for a few days. But you know, that's kind of hard to do. Let's see.
Do you put a varnish over the top of this, or do you have to wait like a year or whatever?
I cheat. I use retouch varnish, which I can spray as soon as it's dry on the surface. And I give it a few coats. In the ideal world, someone would go back and do a liquid varnish, but you really have to wait at least 6 months.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if not a year for that. So
Does-
in the
does
ideal
the
world,
varnish, do you use just like do you use glossy or matte, or what's the other one?
yeah. I used gloss. I hate the glare, but I think it enhances the richness of the oil. So I haven't quite wrapped myself around matte yet, but
Yeah.
you know, it might be the way to go. I don't know.
I don't know. I kind of like the glossy.
Yeah, I mean, I've been happy with it. What I do hate is, you know, when something's in a gallery and the the lights just, you know, there are times where you just have to move to see the right angle to get away from the gloss, but
Understood.
you know, nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm thinking now, is since the sun was coming this way, I don't want to get crazy with this. And this may go away if we don't, yeah, I'm not particularly enthralled with that yet.
Yeah, it's,
I'm stuck.
that expanse, I think in painting something with a land on one side and water on the other is always hard to balance, that splitting it in half.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, the weight of the painting, of course, is over here.
Yeah,
And I think some of the stars of the show, of course, hopefully will be the surf.
right.
But one passage I really like, I'm gonna try to get that closer, is right through there.
Yeah, it's
I
lovely.
mean, if I had a painting just of that, I'd be really happy.
Do you ever go back and go, I'm gonna paint just something like that?
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, I think that would be a super thing to do, especially this time of year at Rocky Point.
It's a good place.
Oh,
How
incredible.
often do you paint out plein air?
Try to do once a week.
Wow. Does the group do it that often too?
Yes, they do. Yeah, which is a great catalyst.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And-
yeah, we have a lot of shared members. So
And they're not
hopefully-
all oilists.
no, we have several watercolorists. Okay, we have a couple watercolorists.
Okay, a couple. Okay, a couple.
All right.
What
I
about
know.
acrylic?
There are acrylic painters also, and some gouache. We also have pastel artists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
May have to join your group.
I think you might just have to do that. It's a great catalyst to get you out
Exactly.
and about. So yeah, the combo of both groups is great. Okay, so I'm going to venture on, I believe, to
Yeah,
some
we're
of this
we've
surf.
got about 5-10 more minutes.
Oh, okay. I'll try to stretch it out.
Well,
But-
it doesn't have to be.
I don't have, yeah, right, we don't have to.
So
We
you're
can go
gonna have
home
that
early.
Yellow, that
Yeah.
warmer.
So this is the cad yellow and white. And I don't know if you can tell there, but yeah, not really.
It's not a
Mm.
lot. It's just a little.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's a little, hopefully, oh yeah.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is more than what I had. And
And you're just using that big brush still.
just using my big old brush.
And will you use that big brush to put in little sparkles too, or do you jump to a?
No, I'll use something smaller. Yeah, it just does, even at the point, doesn't quite work.
Right. Do you ever use a palette knife in your paintings?
I have not, recently I just did very little, but I kind of went over it with brush, so not really.
Nice. That is really putting a little sparkle in it.
Good. Oh yeah, I can see that. Good,
Yeah.
I'm glad you can see that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if anyone else, we're almost done with our recording. If anybody else has any questions or comments, feel free to break in. You can unmute yourself or you can put them in the chat and I will read them out. I know our group is, I think, heavier on the oil side than the watercolor side.
Yeah,
And we do
Well-
have pastel people too.
yeah. Okay, I'm liking that better. And I think it would be helpful to make these shadows a little deeper because they really are,
In your white,
yeah. They really are pretty shadowy.
and that's, is that your neutral mix?
Ooh, I put way too much in there. This is, it's a lighter version of this cerulean and ultramarine. Ew.
So you don't go for opposites, or you're sticking pretty much with the colors that are there. I mean, like some people in their shadows might use an opposite or a more intense.
Right. So, well, in this, I did put in some of my warm neutral.
Mhm.
I don't, needs to be a little darker. That's still not very dark, is it? A little bit more of a contrast, if possible. There we go.
There it is. And that's just that same dim, that's lovely, really.
Thank you. That is, again, it's the same blue mixture.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it though, when it's next to that dark or,
Yeah,
don't you just love art?
I do. Don't you just love paint?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just happy if I can paint something. For a while, when I lived in Santa Fe, I was a sign painter.
Oh, God.
So, yeah, that was a little intense. And can we say carpal tunnel syndrome? But you know,
I
other
got
than
in
that,
details and details.
oh yeah, yeah. We did. If you're ever in Santa Fe, I did the. There's a building over in the warehouse district. It's called San Busco Center. It was Santa Fe Building and Supply Company back in the day when the train stopped there. But a friend had purchased the building and renovated it. So he contracted me to do this huge wall sign over their doorway. And it's of the old, it's the old logo from this San Busco Center. And it has an old steam train and the tracks, and it's interesting writing. And it was, I believe, 9 feet tall by about 15 feet wide.
Oh,
Yeah, above the doorway. So needless to say, it was scaffolding and letters on top of scaffolding.
yeah,
And,
been there, done that.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah, I did a mural.
oh, perfect. Okay. So if anyone ever goes there, please look up and say hi.
I know the lady that did that. Wow. Excellent, excellent. Thank
you.
you
I think,
so much,
think
Linda.
that, oh my gosh, my pleasure. And thank
I'm-
you all for helping me finish this because I feel a lot better about this now. I liked it before, but I didn't, you know, it didn't wow me.
Well, and you
So,
gotta look at it for 2 days, right?
yeah, exactly. Yep, let it dry for 2 days. Don't look at it. And I don't know, what do you think?
I
I need a poll. Do I need to add some dots?
I was thinking that you were going to add some of your sparkles.
Yeah,
I
that's what
think
I'm wondering.
I I vote yes.
Okay, well, we can always take them up. That is
There-
the
There you go.
beauty of oil.